two, one, action.
Hi, everyone. This is Victoria Wolders, your Empathy Tales podcast host from mykidslocker.com. If you are interested in connecting with me, reach out to me at mykidslocker.com, or you can connect with me on all the social media outlets. Well, today we are going to be sharing a story called The Three Doors. This story was actually told at the end of September 29th, 2019. And this story is about a priest who loves his church and how he gives himself as a sacrifice when troubled hearts come knocking. This story is about kindness and perspective taking. And the quote today is, "Everyone is welcomed here." So when was the last time you welcomed someone? When was the last time you had a situation where someone wanted to be invited? Did you welcome them in? Can you still welcome them in? These are a few things you might want to consider while you're listening to the story. Well, I hope you're all comfortable because now I will begin. Okay, so here we are, and I think we're now at episode 65, I think, in our Empathy Tales series. And today is the story of the three doors. So this story actually came from an email that my uncle sent me and a group of people. And he was talking about three doors in a church and how there were different people that went through each of those doors. And so I was doing some more thinking about how people walk through doors and how different people with different roles walk through doors. And and just different perspectives. So today the story is called The Three Doors. Okay, are we comfortable? Then I'll begin. Once upon a time, a long time ago, in the land of the Eastern Eagle, there was a beautiful church that was just outside the magical forest. And this beautiful church was sometimes thought of as a cathedral because it was huge and it was massive. But yet, it wasn't as eloquent and architecturally designed as normally a cathedral would be. It was built by the fairies and the elves and the people of the Ocean Kingdom. But this church was beautiful. It had the entranceway, and it had a front door, which was absolutely beautiful, and it was engraved vines and beautiful beads of pearls and gold and even diamonds. And on the east side, where the sun was rising, they had a beautiful sunrise, and then they had trees carved into the entrance there, and there was just beautiful intricate designs that were on the side of the east. And on the side of the west, there was a picture of a sunset and mountains, and it was also too engraved beautifully. Well, the priest who lived in this church was a very humble man, and he lived there for decades and decades. And he cared for his congregation very much, and his congregation was made out of different people from different places. He had water trolls, and he had elves, and he had fairies, and he had humans, and he had so many different types of beings that would come in and out his doors.
Did you get fairies?
And fairies too, yeah. And he would have princes and princesses and kings and queens and royalty, And then he had the real poor people. He had the witches and the warlocks and the wizards. He had people who were impoverished and people who were very wealthy. Well, one day the town counselors, the elders came to him and said, "We know you love your church, but we need to change the rules of your church. There are 3 doors that come into your church. There's the front door that is graced with diamonds and jewels and gems. And we are fearful that anyone other than humans, true humans of the Oak and Eagle Kingdom, if they go through that door, that they might steal. So the witches and the warlocks might steal, or the fairies and the water troll kings, water trolls, they might steal. So we are going to ask for any other creatures to be going through the other 2 doors. And the only people that will be allowed to go through the front door are the people that are born of true humans. And on the door with the sunrise, we will allow all those people that are, honorable in our community, in our community. So the fairies and the elves and the the fairies and the elves, they will be able to get the sunrise entrance. And then the sunset are for those people who have lied and who could cheat us, like the wizards and the witches and the water trolls. And they can be where the sun set. And so the priest said, "Well, why are you putting these rules? Because our church is meant to welcome everyone." And the counselor said, "Well, it's because we want to make sure that this church stays safe. And we had heard that the water trolls have been known to take things, and we've heard that the wizards have been dishonest at times. And we want to make sure that everyone knows that this church is prized." Well, the priest was very welcoming and very kind, and he chose.
And he said, "You know what? I'm not listening to you guys. I personally love this church, and if you guys want to go make your own church and have your own rules, that's fine with me. But we're here to welcome every single animal in the Oak and Eagle Kingdom, no matter what."
And at that point, the counselors got angry at him. And they said,
"You know what? Sure, we'll make our own church, and I bet you it's going to be better than yours."
And then what they said is, "You're going to go to prison." So they captured him and threw him in
your own church,
and put him in a dungeon. And there he stayed. And while he was there, the counselors chose to make an announcement and said, "From now on, this church is ours, and we are going to make the rules." And so they did. They posted the rules on the door of the church and said...
And then one of the counselors was walking down to go here, he's like, why am I exactly down here?
Well, when the priest was down in the dungeon, he met a wizard. And he said to the wizard, "Why are you down here?" And the wizard said, "Well, the counselors believed that I was lying when I really wasn't. And I really wanted... I was telling the truth, and I told them that, that there was going to be changes in the weather, and they didn't believe me, and they thought I was going to cast a spell, so they cast me down here to the dungeon. And so they didn't believe me, and I was right. We did just have a snowstorm, and they got angry because they knew that I was right and I could foretell the future. And they don't like the fact that I can foretell the future and help people. So they've put me in the dungeon." And then the priest shared his story. And so the wizard said,
You know what? I'm breaking you guys.
I will work with you, and
then the wizard was like, I'm breaking you guys out of here.
Okay, yeah. So the wizard said, I'm breaking you and the priest out. So the priest and the wizard waved his magic wand, and all of a sudden, after a week of being in the dungeon, they were above. And so the wizard said, I'm going to now cast a spell on the village, and all the royalty will turn into water trolls, and all the fairies and elves will turn into witches and warlocks, and all the humans will turn either into water trolls or witches and warlocks. And he cast a spell, and all of a sudden all the people changed, including the counselors, and all the counselors turned into water trolls. So what happened is, when they got to the church that Sunday morning, the counselors were like, well, we can't go through the front door anymore because we're changed. And the water trolls who were turned into humans were at the front door and said, sorry, water trolls, you're not allowed to go in. And the counselor said, but we really are humans. And the water trolls who are now humans, well, you don't look like it. And they laughed. And at that very point, the counselor started to get angry and said, we are humans. We really are. A wizard has cast a spell on us, and we look like water trolls when we're really not. And then the fairies and the elves, who were really fairies and elves, came out, and they had been transformed too into humans. And they're like, well, but you wanted us to go through a different door because we weren't good enough. And then the counselors realized what they had done. They had chose to be prejudiced, and they chose to persecute people that were different than them.
No, wait. Wouldn't the mayor have to make the decision? It couldn't be the counselors who got put down into the dungeons?
The mayor could be part of the counselors. Yeah, part of the council. So at that point, the priest and the wizard from the dungeon came out and said, do you realize, all of you, that we have just gone through an experience where there was prejudice? And they turned to the counselors, who are now water trolls, and said, will you please move on, and may you please forgive and see that everyone deserves to walk through the front door of the church? And the water trolls, which were really counselors, said, yes, we realize that. And in that instant, the wizard waved his magic wand, and all of them returned back to their normal, regular beings. And they all celebrated, knowing that when the sun rose and the sun set, that the front door of the church was always open to any type of person, being, or creature in the land of the Oak and Eagle Kingdom. The end. Well, thank you so much for hearing our story about the 3 doors in the Oak and Eagle Kingdom. I hope you enjoyed it. And we are signing off for September 29th. It's a Sunday, 2019. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining us today for another story, The 3 Doors. It was absolutely lovely to have you here and to be able to listen to our story. I hope that you would be able to take some pieces of mindfulness, empathy, compassion, and care from our story. And I hope that if you're able to come back and listen to more of our Oak and Eagle Kingdom series. This is the 2020 version, where it's authentic. These are recordings from my own house, where I'm recording with my kids. They are not polished. They are basically, this is what it is. And these are the stories I'm sharing at my kids' bedside. Well, boys and girls, adults, teachers, anyone who is listening, I hope that you enjoyed today's story. And I hope I will see you next time at the next Empathy Tale. But until then, I hope you, too, will create compassion, one story at a time. Thank you.